Welcome everyone. We've got another episode of Herding Cats. This time it's a little bit different than the usual format because I'm completely alone in our little studio and everyone is scattered around anywhere else on the planet. So tonight we have um, the lovely Lilith. Hold on. There we go. Lilith. We have. Oh, wait a minute.
Hello, everyone.
I seem to have developed an echo. Okay. Welcome. Glad you could make it. Also, we have
I seem a bit fuzzy, but I'm glad to be here.
Artie. And
This is like the Hollywood Squares introductions.
yes, and of course our guest, Eric Murphy. So, Eric, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure entirely. Should we do an introduction, or do you think everyone knows you already? I think
I don't know. I'm looking at the live chat. I saw Aptivist was asking. Eric Murphy's just some. Can I cuss on this channel, or is this a family channel?
you can do whatever you want.
You better cuss before Artie beats you to it.
Yeah.
All right.
I apologize.
Eric Murphy is just some asshole on the internet who argues with Christians once a week on Talk Heathen. It's a call-in show out of Austin, Texas. I also have a private YouTube channel, youtube.com/Eric T. Murphy, where I have long-form conversations with Christian apologists, although I am redoing that show and turning it into something new. So it's going to be relaunching somewhat soon. And I have a podcast called The Atheist Podcast. You can go to theatheistpodcast.com to check that out. I Twitch stream at least once a week, just kind of all over the place.
Great. So I'm confused. You're the asshole talking to theists. I thought I was, but who knows? Maybe there are more that.
One of us.
We can
One of us.
Yes.
So, my first question would be, how did you get into all of this? How did you end up with the ACA doing what you do?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I lurked a lot. I lived an entirely different life.
Hi, creepy.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. So I think from 2007 until 2008 until 2016. I just watched and listened to podcasts and watched YouTube videos and read as many, atheist philosophy books as I could. I had an opportunity to kind of restart my life. And so I moved to Austin, where the atheist community of Austin was, because my favorite show was The Atheist Experience. I came in, and after a few months, they were like, okay, Eric seems reasonable and trustworthy. And so they taught me how to be a call screener for The Atheist Experience. I got really, really involved and started doing like a floor show for people before the show to get them all excited and all of that. And eventually the producer and audio engineer sat down with myself and my friend Jamie, and they said, hey, if either of you want to start a show, we would be happy to do the production and audio engineering. And both of us were like, yes, we want to do that. So it's all good. We wound up starting Talk Heathen from there. It launched in November of 2017, and we're still going strong. Actually, we popped over 73,000 subscribers, and I was told by our producer that we are rivaling AXP on Patreon, and 100% right? I know.
Wait! Didn't I see you with Drag and you said that you beat them already, or am I confused?
No, you're not confused. It just depends on how you check the numbers. So when it comes to Patreon, there's the initial amount, right? You get paid per creation, but someone can say, hey, I'll do the first creation of the month and then no more. And so when you look at that number, you can't actually multiply it by 4 and get an accurate reading of how much is coming in. That said, I believe AXP is still leading the way at the end of the month, but that number on front on Patreon, at least on Sunday, was ahead. So that was cool. And,
Yeah.
I mean,
Very nice.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't understand.
Oh, for Christ's
to be
sake.
clear, well, if you didn't understand, I'd be happy to help.
Would you
clear,
fuck
Can't
off?
sweet talk Siri, that'll help.
Just fuck off.
we actually don't see any of that money. 100% of it goes to the nonprofit, which is the Atheist Community of Austin. It's a 501c3 based out of Austin, Texas, and that money goes towards helping the homeless, towards helping empower other atheist and skeptic organizations to fulfill their missions. It goes towards the production, the equipment, keeping the lights on, and all of that, so that multiple shows can go on. I have a very strong opinion that if you have a platform, you have an obligation. You have what I feel is a moral responsibility to use that platform to the best ability that you can to kind of bring out and emphasize those voices of people who wouldn't be heard otherwise. And so we do our best, and because of that, we started a whole bunch of other programs that are ongoing, and I'm excited about it. So yeah.
Well,
Very nice.
at
Very
least
nice.
we have one thing in common, because this show only exists because I was completely jealous of Matt Dillahunty, and I wanted to do what he does, and that's why I'm here, and I dragged the others with me, I guess.
I was arguing with people who had stupid things to say long before I ever heard of Matt Dillahunty or the ACA. I felt like I was, groundbreaking.
Well,
Total show.
the same goes for me, but then I discovered that there was this show that ran on what was it, public access, and then was later streamed onto YouTube. So I think I saw every show for the last decade, maybe a little longer.
Oof.
So yeah, I
I
actually
might have to play a little pickup with that. I don't think I can quite match you on that one, Peter. But Peter did drag us all along. The day I started Twitter, actually, he was like, "Ooh, you have really interesting things to say. Everybody follow Lilith." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you." Where are you
Yeah.
at?
Every once in a while, I make a quite a good discovery on Twitter, and then give people a boost, and I'm rarely disappointed, I have to say. That's almost never happens. So
Eric,
I'm
just so you,
sassy.
Eric, just so you learn something about Peter through all this. Peter thinks I'm one of the funniest comedians on YouTube.
yep.
So you can see just how Dutch he is and where his ability to form intelligent opinions lies.
Well, actually, the Dutch part is something that really excites me.
It is fucking fascinating. You should hear him tell a joke.
Well, I'm seeing more and more international people starting channels and growing them, and the more we can get out, the more exposure we can get to this community that we're trying to grow together. There's room for everybody here, and so the fact that you've got this going out, the fact that you're doing this, and honestly, man, what time is it over there?
Here it's 10 minutes past 10 p.m. in the evening. So Lilith is 2 hours behind you. And
I'm 2 hours behind. It's 1 here.
yeah, see,
The
I can do time
the
zones.
really interesting time was the
sometimes.
time we were recording with Atheist Morph in Australia, and it was like, okay, we're gonna span half the globe. How are we gonna do this?
Yeah, scheduling with Australians is complicated.
But the cool thing is we're in an environment where we can, and that is really, really awesome. Thank you to all of you guys for finding that time to go in together, even when it's at 10 at night. That's dedication.
Well, a
Well,
couple of us are old enough to
Oh,
remember when you made international phone calls. Like I had an uncle that was stationed in Germany, and that's 1974, and there would literally be a 4 or 5 second delay in the conversation. So you'd say something, you'd almost have to say over just to be able to have the conversation. And now we can talk to he's in the Netherlands and I'm in Indiana and you're in Texas, and she's and it's as if we're in the same fucking room, and I studied this shit when I was in college. Most of what's actually happening now was theory then, because I'm fucking old. But to be able to take advantage of it and to learn how popular some ideas are internationally and how unpopular some are internationally, and just to be able to have conversations with people who you know can't possibly have your perspective on something is just fascinating. It's a wonder. And then there's talking shit on Twitter.
which is a sport.
And there is so much shit to deal with on Twitter.
Yeah, that is definitely a sport that I am terrified to get into. I see it and I try and join in when things are fun and everybody's kind of growing each other. But when I start to see the fights, I go, they could call the show.
Yeah, fair enough. You should get
some of us don't have that outlet, Eric.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That actually became a thing that I started doing. Is people would tag me into their Facebook arguments with their racist uncle or whatever, and
Facebook. Ouch.
Yeah, and I would just go, you should call my show,
yeah.
And that's just kind of been the through line there.
I don't fuck with Facebook. My mom is on Facebook.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook that exists because my mom is on Facebook and my aunt is on Facebook, and they can send me pictures that way, and I will like them, and then I will not look at Facebook again for another 3 months.
Yeah, I think I have a Facebook. I think I have a Facebook account because I'm fairly certain it's illegal to remove it. Don't you get shot in the street?
Yeah, probably.
Oh God! Do you guys watch Epic Rap Battles of History?
Oh, it's been a while.
It has been a while, but yeah, was there on that one?
Yeah. Okay. Well, they've come back, and there was an episode from before, like 5th or 6th season, I don't know, and it was Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk. And the guy playing Mark Zuckerberg, he nailed it. He had these eyes, and he's like this. I'm the CEO of Knowing What You Think, Inc. And he didn't blink the entire battle. It was freaky. Ooh. It was like that. Oh God, it was so scary.
He's got the dead eyes.
Well, I'm not a Facebook guy. I absolutely hate Facebook. I have a page because I need to keep in touch with a few people who are only on Facebook. But other than that, we did recently find someone who's actually going to manage our page on Facebook. So hopefully there will be some activity. It's been there for over a year, and no one.
What sucker is this? Who's the sucker?
His name is Wes. He also is going to do an atheist show. So we're still in the process of hammering out his channel and his artwork and everything. So that'll be next. But no.
Board meeting. Didn't even know we were here to do. Got it.
You didn't know we had a Facebook page?
We got to work on our communication skills.
Yeah, see, that's how interested I am in Facebook. I just can't be bothered. But so one thing I'm curious about, Eric. What was the strangest guest you had on, and maybe what was the one who has some kind of special place? So 2 guests. Oh, I think we've lost Eric. Eric, wait a minute. Eric, come back. There he is.
Stage. Sorry, there was a dip in internet, and it kind of took me down for a minute, and so I got popped backstage.
Well, you're lucky. I had that yesterday. I was supposed to be on a show yesterday, and I thought, wait, this is a little late, so I'm gonna watch a debate, and then I'll be up. And in the middle of the debate, my screen froze, and 8 hours later, my internet came back on. So I see him in the side chat. Neil, my sincere apologies, and thanks for rescheduling this quick, because I really felt sorry that I wasn't there last night.
Neil, I want you to know that it was the gods that aligned to make that happen because I was unavailable for the after party last night.
See, that's what happened. So back to my question. You're not the guest, Artie. You're just the co-host.
Really, Lilith?
back back to my
that looks amazing.
back to my question, Eric.
It's actually part of the reason I ordered it was to horrify Robert if he comes on, because our great disagreement is pineapple
on pizza.
Well,
I see a piece dangling off the edge there.
I'm happy to say that you are correct.
I am pro pineapple.
So can I rein everything back in and get back to my question? I'm really curious.
Oh,
did you get the question,
you
Eric,
talking?
or did you drop off before I asked the question?
I dropped out, so I missed it. Could you say again?
Yeah. So I was curious. We can start with one. What was the strangest guest you had on Talk Heathen, and why? Can you enlighten us a little?
Oh my gosh, we've had a couple, man. Let's see. So we've had there was a guy who
The guy from Scotland.
Hamish was fun. Hamish was fun.
Yeah.
There was a guy who believed that the pyramids were the original site of the Garden of Eden. That was interesting.
That's Missouri. We all know that's Missouri.
Jackson County, buddy. Jackson County. Somebody's next Mormon. But there were, let's see, I've had UFO people, I've had flat earthers. It just runs the gamut, man. But who's the most entertaining? I don't know. They're all just kind of special in their own way, you know. And really, when it comes to the wild callers, what I adore about them is, you know, I love, I don't know about you guys, but I love fiction. I love, you know, fantasy. You know, I play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh God, yeah.
Dark.
And so when it comes to, it could be in space, it could be in Middle Earth, it could be whatever it is. But, you know, I don't want to just follow the story of the protagonist. If it's a well-created world, I want to live there. You know, with Harry Potter, I want to go to Diagon Alley. Please leave me there for a day just so that I can experience that, right? And so when I'm talking to somebody who's just way in some other planet, how? Like, what do they do? How does the government work? How does the sun rise in the morning? And how does gravity, like, what in their world is that? And I just kind of want to live there for a little bit, you know? And so when it comes to those viewpoints in particular, they just bring a very special kind of joy, for sure.
Those are the reason I watch you, Eric. Just because first of all, I think on a certain level, I think the mocking tone is something we share, and the ability to make almost force someone to say the thing you know they want to, just so you can mock that thing. I feel like we share that.
Wow. You know,
it's so much fun to listen to you talk to somebody who was just fucking nuts, because I would get to a point where I would be so relentless that they would just give up and go away. But you managed to keep them engaged while still mocking them relentlessly, and I just think that's beautiful.
Well,
I do have a question, actually, as regards the fiction element.
Yes, but
have you ever considered writing a fantasy novel series based on...
Really quick, Lilith?
Yeah?
Just so that
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to make one quick distinction. Artemis, I don't mock them.
I'm sorry. Agreed.
I mock their ideas. You know,
fully appreciate the difference.
Super, super clear. People are deserving of respect. Ideas are not. But yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure that was...
Yeah, no.
Okay,
well,
Lilith.
Of course. It's the same thing. No, it's the same thing Penn Jillette says.
Yeah.
Love and respect all people, hate and destroy all faith. But I have to admit, looking at it as sort of that fictional world with everything involved in it, that has to be intriguing. And I still want to know if you've considered writing a fantasy novel based on these total alternate realities that these people live in.
So growing up as a Christian, I think I've read enough of them.
No, I meant a good one with less incest.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember the Left Behind series?
Oh, fuck me.
Oh,
God.
Yeah, I just brought back a bad memory, didn't I?
Holy shit.
That is the worst fucking... It's like it's so horribly written that you can't look away. And they're so painfully literal-minded.
Yeah, I watched one of those, and I wasn't even sure what I was watching. It didn't immediately register with me that this was religious propaganda until we got to the very end. I was like, the fuck? I sat through all of this stupid to get to the end where the conclusion is just mind-numbing. Oh, that was time well spent. Oh, there's more of those?
Was that the Kirk Cameron or Left Behind? Okay. Now, because the thing is, I did read some of the Left Behind books. I jumped off the ship at some point, even when I was a Christian, but I remember, because the thing is, they're basing it all on Revelations, which, fine. But they're so painfully literal-minded that when it has that bit about the locusts with the faces of lions and the tails of scorpions that serve Abaddon, and, like, clearly this is a metaphor for something, people. But no. They literally had little locusts going around with the heads of lions and the tails of scorpions chanting Abaddon, and their sting would burn and torture you for 3 months or 4 months or whatever the hell it is. I'm like, seriously? You couldn't even let this be a metaphor.
All that shit makes sense.
Seriously.
And there are so many better stories. There's so many better stories. I want to, like, okay, so if I were to pick a Bible story, I would definitely want to follow Samson.
Yeah, me too.
Samson is just this asshole. I mean,
pussy and beer.
He's a
pussy and beer kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, just amazingly so. Like it was as if it would be as if someone took, you know, the character of Heracles and just dropped that kind of moral, you know, bar just a good bit, you know.
Forehead to nipples, I think, would be a good metaphor.
Yeah, probably. I mean, geez, dude, he slaughtered a village with the jawbone of an ass.
It must have taken hours.
That is insane. That is insane.
It's like you start to wonder. It was like a video game, and actually the village was the one with the foxes with the tails. It was like 10,000 men with the jawbone of an ass. Where did he put them? Did he just like fight as bodies piled around him, and the new guys had to jump off the tavern of the old guys?
I think what happened was that he 7 days to died him, and he got them all to the door in the city wall, and then he just started backing up. And he just killed them all.
Well, he'd have to back up, otherwise the doorway would be clogged with bodies in about 15
kill them
minutes.
in a parade. It's a secession. You just kill one after the other.
Yeah, and then he just grabs the door off the hinges and just starts running with it.
Right.
And just keeps going.
Yeah.
And then the absolute utter stupidity.
You strong like oaks.
Right? It's like, you know, hey, we've been running. We've been outside of the city for about 10 minutes now. Or no, we're gonna keep running. Okay. No, you do you. You know?
Yeah, no, you got this.
Yeah. And then the ridiculousness of Delilah and that whole thing. You know, if you want to try and kill me.
So evil. This guy has murdered how many of our countrymen?
Yeah. Well, they weren't his. I mean, they were Philistines.
Yeah.
So they weren't technically his countrymen, but still.
Right, of course. They weren't.
I think when it comes to Philistines, you can't have too many of their foreskins hanging from around your neck.
No. You know what? You just fry them up. They're like calamari. You know?
That was one of my favorite things you ever said.
Oh God, that would be so chewy.
It freaked me out because it led me to visions of the guys that used to have like ears roped around their necks in Vietnam, and
Yeah.
them frying them up. All right, that was a bad visual.
You did that to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
this
no,
is
I'm
my
not blaming
favorite
you
thing
for it. I'm just
about-
telling you what happened.
Okay, just imagine taking
This
a fork and like a rubber band and just shooting at your friend.
Wait.
Batter.
Do we need to get Kent Hovind in here to show us the correct way how to shoot a rubber band?
No, I need somebody to tell me what a foreskin, how elastic a foreskin is, because I don't fucking have one.
I think that's
Second
the only question that I didn't ask him when I had him on. But so Eric, I want to rein it.
Wait. I have one question. I have one question about foreskins.
Obviously,
Ask him why a man after God's own heart bought his first wife with a bag of dicks.
Okay, first off, it wasn't a bag of dicks. Okay.
It was a bag of dicks. How else do you think they bought 200 foreskins?
It was dick pieces.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was just a whole bunch of little nasty fleshy bits. So
That's what a dick is.
No.
oh, honey.
No.
You need to get around. You need to get around more. Lilith. So
I couldn't help it.
hold on. We do have a
That is-
question. We do have a question from the chat. And since we're on
Sure.
strange things, and we've touched on science fiction and going out into space, he'll probably pop up because he promised that he would. But we did have a question. If you're going to have another talk with Richard Madsen.
Richard Madsen. Oh, that was the guy who said that if you change this verse in the Bible to mean this, and then that verse in the Bible to mean another thing, then it's a hidden message.
You have it on your channel under the title "Hidden Messages in the Bible." If I'm not entirely correct.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a lot of actual flack for that. And the reason I think I got flack for it is the reason I want to have these conversations is because I want to provide something that's very useful to people who might come across these ideas. And Richard is one that while he's a very, very nice guy, and he is a very nice guy, and I did want to treat him fairly and all of that, and as a human, absolutely.
He is.
But people didn't seem to get a lot from that conversation. I got a lot of negative feedback. So while I'd be happy to talk to him off air, I probably won't have him back on my channel.
Well, so I have to. We had him on our channel. The problem with Richard is, and he won't mind me saying that because I've told him that in private. His brain is wired so differently from the rest of us mortals.
That's a really polite way of saying that.
Well, so but it is. It really is.
It really is.
A conversation with Richard is like playing chess. He's already 6 moves ahead when you're talking, and so when he answers 6 moves ahead. So it's really difficult to keep the conversation going and to keep it focused.
I think he's playing by his own rules.
Yeah, I disagree. I think what more likely is happening is this happens to me on occasion, but I'm better at it than when I was a kid. Is that you're having the conversation in your head the way you expect it to go, and you're not paying attention to the conversation you're actually having. So when the person you're speaking with stops to take a breath, you have an answer. It may not have anything to do with what was just said, but you have a fucking answer, and that's kind of the way his brain works constantly, except sometimes it sinks.
That's interesting because that's not exactly the way things worked between he and I when he and I talked. There were a couple of times we talked about things, and I referenced something. He was like, I don't know what that is, and whether or not we agree with things, whether or not our epistemic, routes are different, it definitely gets a lot of respect from me when somebody has the integrity to say, I don't know, to something.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But
Definitely.
No,
So-
I don't think anybody was trying to imply that he's in any way lacks humility.
Oh no, I didn't think of it as a lax humility, but kind of taking that script and having an answer. There were a couple times when he just didn't, and he was just like, "Walk me through this a little bit, Eric," and I appreciated that. But yeah, in the end, I think the thing that really disappointed me at the conclusion of that was there's this thing, and if you've been raised Christian or talked to overzealous Christians, oh well, you don't believe, but you're gonna find out when you die, and oh yeah, double face palm over there, yeah. But his was, I know you're not going to believe me, but when the ship comes down from the sky, you'll believe me. And I thought, I thought of all of the things, I hate that we ended on that, because I don't know, but I left it all in. I left the whole thing up uncut because we talked about it, and I wanted to represent him as.
I think it was worth leaving up. I didn't realize you got flack for it, but
No.
kudos for
Honestly,
kudos for
I
having
think
a
that's very telling, though, because obviously most Christians, I'm sure, would say that his shtick is crazy. Let's be honest, but he's ending on the same line they do. That you'll see that I'm right someday, and then it'll be too late. There's the threat implied. There's the Pascal's wager aspect to it, but there's also just a sense of I've run out of ways to defend myself, but you'll see I'm right anyway. And I don't know, I think there might be some virtue in pointing to them and saying, you say that, and so does he. And there's no way in hell you're buying his story.
Yeah, and honestly, and that actually feeds perfectly into someone in the comment who says that he resents me because I talked to him after I talked about it after the stream ended. And that was one thing that I also thought was particularly weird, and it was I challenged an idea, and he said, "Are you calling me a liar?" And that's not how that works. You challenge ideas, but if you're tying your personal identity into an idea so much so that you can't even hear that disagreement without getting personally offended, then
that's personally upsetting to me. I'm not sure how you react to it, but
honestly, it's confusing to me. It is because I go, when was I talking about you? I was talking about your idea.
Right. I didn't mean to say anything that had anything to do with you as a person, but it appears that I have. Could you point out where exactly that happened so we can go?
Although there is something that we can learn from that, and the thing that we can learn from that is, when you conflate yourself with your ideas, right? And it happens so often, and we do it to each other as well. One of the things that I absolutely hate is, so. You can say something racist by accident. It happens, right? So that, I so often when I was growing up and I was with the white kids, I was the Mexican in the group, and when I was with Mexican kids, I was the white kid in the group, and that was just always the case. And so they would make fun of me. Depending,
you'd have been in Indiana, they just assumed you were Jewish.
But here's the thing, man. The thing is that they would be able to say, or they would say, hey, X racist comment, and I was their friend. I know that they're not a racist,
right?
But that doesn't mean that the thing that you said wasn't. Right? You can do things that are out of character. And honestly, I think that when you evaluate something and go, ooh, that's actually really out of character for me. Maybe I need to investigate that a little more, because I don't really stand behind the character that portrayed. I think that is something that we need to value and stand behind, because way too many people look and go, well, I can't possibly be able to say a racist / sexist / whatever thing, because I'm not racist / sexist. And it's like, no, those ideas are from you, the person.
Right.
And if you have racist ideas, would you know it?
No.
And also, there's the who goes, yes, I'm a racist piece of shit. That's me.
Wait,
I've met them.
Yeah,
I had a beer with them.
This is a legitimate quote from a human being. I don't think I'm racist, but I'm probably a bigot.
Ooh. You know what I get, actually, which kills me?
Logic.
Is they go, hey, Eric, it's okay. You're one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
Yeah. Oh, you're one of the good ones. Artemis. Yeah. That one always.
This is what I don't understand. I am from Canada. I'm not saying we have no racist shit in our history, but compared to the southern United States, we are fucking golden. Half the shit that goes, I could say something racist literally by accident, not because I held whatever the corresponding opinion was that you think, just because I don't know all the shit that's gone on there. It's like, what the fuck? It's like walking into an intellectual war zone.
Well,
like, why are there, what? Who blew up everything?
Well, and the thing is I mean, we're using the word racist as a placeholder, for any kind of bigotry.
Right.
And
that's why I prefer to use the word bigotry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
I kind of try to avoid using the word, which to me is why that statement was so fucking funny. It was because I'm not a racist, I'm a bigot. Well, no fucking shit, you're a bigot. You're a goddamn racist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that people have different definitions, and we can always have a
gay marriage since 2005 in Canada. Just for the record, we had it 10 years before y'all.
Cheers! I fought for it tooth and nail before it got passed here.
Good job.
But that said, I mean, bigotry based on X. There's your ism. And yeah,
whatever
if you say something that is bigoted, that doesn't make you a bigot necessarily. You could be, but to own up and say, hey, that was a bigoted thing that I did. I think is something that we as a movement, I know that it's something everybody needs to work on, but if we're going to hold each other to account and raise the level of discourse, then I definitely think that that's something we could work on.
I think it's important that we keep in mind that there are people, and I consider myself among them, and I can see them in the generations behind me, where you're the first person in a generation, you're the first part of the first generation in your whatever family that isn't just outright bigoted, and you're the first one that thinks that maybe we should maybe what they thought, maybe mom and dad are stupid, maybe grandma really is devoutly wrong, and those people I think are the most susceptible to be accused by people who are just a little too excited about jumping on somebody. Those people are the most likely ones to say something that they're not quite sure it's racist or not. Doesn't seem racist by comparison to what they're exposed to every fucking day. So to them, it's not racist, but to everybody that's even remotely more enlightened, of course it is. I think it's important that we appreciate that those people are fighting two fucking wars, and one of the sides can give him a little more leeway than the other one needs to, and maybe kid gloves every now and again.
Definitely, I don't think that every problem needs the same tool, for sure. Sometimes you need a scalpel, and they're coming at it with a machete, and we definitely need to tailor our approach. And it's not incumbent upon an entire group to be the one to walk up to you and be like, hey man, I know you meant your best, but but
it has these connotations you should probably be aware of.
Yeah, those are conversations that you should have. I mean, you should. Yeah. You kind of missed that one.
but you kind of, but that doesn't mean that everybody has to be that person.
Right.
But hoping that person can get talked to. I mean, myself personally, I had a lot of hangups with sex when I left the church. A lot of hangups.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not talking about gender identity or anything like that. I'm specifically talking about the institutionalized shame and the way that
Oh my God,
used
so
as a
much.
cudgel. Oh, Lilith, you too? Yeah. And
God, actually, it's interesting. I wrote an article in Secular World. It should be out. It's the latest issue of Secular World. It's how I changed my mind about purity, and I talk about, give demonstrations of the ways that sense of shame is worked into any kind of physical pleasure before you even understand what sex is. Before you don't even know what's going on, but the roots are there, and then it infiltrates everything forever after, and it's so fucked up. It's incredibly, and then you're this constant state of guilt and, oh my God, what if I think this, do that, say this, imagine that, and God will, blare it on a loudspeaker for everyone to hear that I once had this awkward thought. Because that's a healthy way to go through puberty.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And if you haven't called into secular sexuality to talk about that, you totally should. Because that is right up that alley. And if you wrote on that, shoot me a message after this, and
I will.
I'll connect you, because that is definitely an experience that resonates with tons and tons of people, and it sure as hell resonates with me. And so it's going to resonate with enough people that talking about that would be worth it for sure.
Great.
Yeah. But that's just an example, right? I was not intending to propagate some of these ideas. They're just built in, Artemis, when you were talking about being the first person in your, family unit or whatever to be not racist, there are so many built-in things that you can do your best, but you're still going to make mistakes, and
right.
and you're still
it's all you know.
Yeah, and you're still going to be challenging your underlying.
You have to research everything.
All of it. I mean, I
from the ground. You're like, what the? I didn't even realize this thing over here.
Actually, as being one of those people, I feel like I was immediately empathetic to the idea that racism and bigotry was stupid. Part of it was that my dad.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My dad made it really easy for me to see that bad is bad and good is good, because my dad is a raging. Well, here's my dad's story. He was a raging bigot almost his entire life, and then he got to be about age 60, and he started to appreciate the fact that Artemis has got some gay friends, and he's always had black friends, and he speaks Spanish because he works with Hispanics. And then he was wrapped his brain around all that shit for about 4 years, and then he started to get dementia, and now he's the same racist piece of shit he was before.
So close.
It's like,
but working on that is definitely worth the effort, especially if it's somebody that you care about and love, and you want to take that time with them. It's just, I don't know. And the other thing is as you were saying, you're not going to have the vocabulary. Could you imagine what Megan Phelps Roper had to deal with leaving the Westboro Baptist Church? Because she only knew one word for gay people, and that started with an F, right? She only knew. Could you imagine trying to talk as empathetically and kindly as
I know this is the wrong word, but I have no other word.
Yeah, and just having that vocabulary. I mean, it just takes so much. It takes absolutely so much. And I actually had a caller on Sunday, and I had a caller, I think, a week before that, and both of them were people who were saying, I don't know how I can forgive myself. I've gone a lifetime of perpetuating what I now recognize are really terrible ideas, and I don't think that I am worthy of forgiveness. And ultimately, it's self-compassion.
Yeah, that's their religion talking. Of course you're worthy of...
You are, and if you want to put it to the test, then put somebody else in your shoes and tell me if you would crucify them for it.
Exactly.
You know,
Absolutely.
we embrace free thinkers, and we don't expect them to all wind up at the same point in their lives, you know, where they're at. No, we find them where they are now, and we're glad that you came here, and we're just going to keep growing from there.
I think there's a really profound element in what you said, putting yourself in that place, because people who didn't grow up in evangelical Christianity, the type that takes it seriously, often don't realize how much you're taught to hate yourself. It's said, you know, love others as you love yourself, but you're not allowed to love yourself. You're supposed to always put yourself last. You put others before you. When you put Jesus in front of others, you know, what was that old god-awful acronym from Sunday school? Joy, Jesus, then others, then you. So it's,
Wow.
you would have so much more compassion for another person in that situation. And it's one of the things I've had to learn. Be as nice to yourself as you would be to literally any other fucking person on the planet in the same situation.
And it is hard to do. That is a tall order, my friend.
Oh my God.
It's not it should never be an expectation. It should only ever be a goal, because you're going to fuck that up.
Well, and even more so. I mean, I've got to say that I've got some more privilege than Lilith here. Lilith, were you raised a Christian?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
God, yeah. Actually,
and I'm assuming you were raised as a Christian woman.
Oh yes, of course. The submission shit. That was
Holy crap!
I know.
Holy crap!
I have to admit, I was luckier than most, because although my parents, they chilled out over the years. Unfortunately, their most extreme was during my really fundamental key, you know, up until the age of 4, 5, 6, where it really sinks in. But they would talk the talk about man, head of the household, and woman, blah, 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 blah. But they didn't really walk the walk. They lived a lot more enlightened than they spoke.
Oh, yeah.
And they did that whole apologetic, oh, well, the man is the head of the household, which means, you know, it's his responsibility and he has to take care of everyone. And like, they put it in the best possible light.
Oh yeah, well,
not your transformed wife level shit, but still, it was. I still had that language, that feminist hating bullshit, and part of it was just me being as stubborn as I am. I was not going to submit if I knew I was right.
See, I grew up. Both of my grandfathers were dead. Almost my entire life, my grandfathers were dead. My mom's dad died before my second birthday. And my dad's dad died when I was 7. So I spent most of my life without a grandfather, which basically allowed me to ignore that generation. But what it also did was made me only think of grandparents, my grandmothers, as single women taking care of everything. Neither of them...
And can I jump in real quick before we move on?
Themselves feminists.
Too far.
It is your show, my friend. You go for it.
So I want to point out that Lilith has a channel of her own, on which there are still some of the best videos that I've seen on the topic of coming out of Christianity, and especially coming out of Christianity as a woman. So
agreed.
I think everyone should subscribe to Lilith, and Lilith, go make more videos.
Lilith.
Yes, I really need to.
What's your channel called again? One more time.
It's Lilith Liberated. It's the same as my name, the same as my original Twitter handle. I made some videos, and then I was moving and a bunch of other things got going, and it's very overwhelming because I don't just talk about my deconversion, I talk about my indoctrination. Because I realized that for those who weren't raised in it, there's so much they don't understand about the mindset. And so I went back in my mind. How the hell did I come to think these things?
Yeah.
And that was the part where I was like, this is the narrative people need to know. They need to know that before I was 6 years old, the first seriously complex concept I understood was that I was deserving of damnation for any sin. And I wasn't expected to necessarily know what those sins were.
I think I see your channel. 133 subscribers? Is that you?
Probably.
Okay.
I think
134.
it's got the
and I have to. I
it's
have
got
to.
the two birds
Yep.
artwork.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
me.
subscriber 134. Done.
And I have to warn people if they go there, because not a lot of videos made me cry. There are on that channel that have, so be at least be prepared. I also want to rein it back in a little, because we've got several questions from the side chat that I want to throw at you,
Oh, yes.
Eric.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the first one that I've pulled up here. One from Geo Sam. His question is, if people can use the same information to arrive at different conclusions about reality, how reliable is this information? So, and I'm guessing that he's talking about the people that usually call in on Talk Heathen.
Sure.
So, what would your response be?
It has everything to do with epistemology. The tools in your toolbox that you bring out to understand the world around you are going to get you to what you believe about the world. You're not going to change what you understand about the world until you're able to, look at it with fresh eyes. There are so many different things that I used as a Christian that were just terrible ideas. Terrible ideas.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible, it's true because it stood the test of time.
It's
Right?
still in print, so it's good.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's see what else. There are so many
Most printed book in history of human beings,
which makes it the truest, apparently.
apparently.
And one of the least read.
It's the most bestest.
The most anyway.
Come on,
No,
how
not
many
gonna-
how many times were you given a Bible for everything? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and a different Bible too. Although it all had the same things, right? There was the women's study Bible, there was the teenager study Bible. I have an apologetic study Bible. There was the men's study Bible. There was
Truth about
I
the
had a
Bible.
True Love Waits Bible.
Ooh, nice. Did it have like nice expanded
However, I
reads
tore up. Oh, and it had all the inserts to make you feel guilty about every conceivable thing associated with sex. By teaching you how to think about it. But I tore them all out, and that is actually the origin of my duct tape Bible, which I should have brought because I've shown it. It's a paperback Bible initially, so I made it more durable. I
Yes, you
taped
did.
together their idiotic attempt at a glossary of terms about how everything's a fucking sin, and then I gave it a hardcover. Now it's my duct tape Bible.
All right. Yeah.
See?
Ooh.
Which
Yep.
which brings me to a question that I have. Will there be an annotated Book of Eric?
Absolutely.
When?
Absolutely.
When?
Well, so right now I am unemployed and trying to make ends meet, so it's on the back burner.
Okay.
But I already have it outlined, and I'm going to be releasing it in 2 waves. The first wave, because people just want to be able to have it on their, coffee table, is I'm currently searching for a good vendor to be able to sell books, let's say the Book of Eric on it, that you can write your own, because why the hell not? So as soon as I find that, I'll put the word out on that, and people will be able to buy it. While that's going on, though, I do have the Book of Eric that I have structured out, and when I get the chance to write it, I will, and then I'll sell that.
I just realized that was one of the first things you said about yourself that I latched onto was your let me tell you about the Book of Eric.
Yeah.
And I just posted a thing in the private chat for us about this is a thing that's been going on for me since the late 90s, where people it's one of two things. It's either that joke was just for him, or that must be a quote from the book of Curticus.
Yeah. It's
So I love the idea because I have the same one.
Yeah, it's useful, man. It's useful. I did not think it was going to take off and go anywhere. And then
Oh, it's fucking funny.
people thought it was great. And
Yeah,
so,
as an idea, it's fucking funny.
well, okay. So if I can digress on the Book of Eric, I'll tell you my original idea for it is it was not going to be a book for sale. It was going to be a prop, and I would have this prop, and it would be about yay big,
Quotes.
and it would be tabbed. So some pages would be larger than others, and so if you wanted to skip a few pages, you could.
Like a
And so
cookbook.
yeah, and so, oh my gosh, it was going to be, let's see, page 1. Eric created the universe, and then you could move to the next page. It would say, yes, he did, and then page 3 would be no, you. So that way, if you're like, no, here it says right in the book, Eric created the universe. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
or you move on to the next one.
Yes, you take page 1, you turn it over, and it says page 2, and then parenthetically it says no, it isn't, and then over here it says,
Yeah, but if they fight you on it, then cool, you just move to the next one, and it doesn't, and it still makes sense. Then what was that? What else was going to be there? Owning people as property is bad. Don't do it. And so you could be like, I don't know, in my holy book it says not to own people as property. How about yours? Oh, it does. I think I like it better.
That's
You are muted.
that.
Sorry, I was going to say another important point to add as an addendum: women are full people.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Well, so
let's not overstate the obvious.
this is a nice segue to the next question.
So the religious, there's no way to overstate the obvious.
No joke.
So this is a nice segue to the next question from Tapioca Weasel.
That's such a
For
great
a
fucking
question for Eric and anyone else. Do you have, so that this probably is for all of us, do you have a particular definition of faith that you prefer? I'm provisionally convinced that as I understand the terms, I have faith in induction. So Eric, you can go first.
Sure. The one that's worked best for me is belief without evidence. And when it comes to the problem of induction, I totally understand that. You cannot use the laws of logic to prove the laws of logic. It's circular. That said, we're all convinced that it works. We don't have evidence to the contrary, and so we tentatively, expect that it's going to continue to work, and there we go. But yeah, faith being belief without evidence has been the most useful to me.
I've looked it up in the dictionary several times, and what has stood out to me is that faith is belief based in conviction, not evidence. Now, all the people with the religious faith will say, I have evidence, I have evidence, I have evidence, but they didn't start from evidence. Con men with bad backstories like Lee Strobel notwithstanding, they didn't actually start from evidence. Oh, come on, nobody buys that.
Come on, Lee is totally. He was.
I could come up with harder questions than the supposed, reporter who's so esteemed. I'm like,
said he was an atheist.
Yeah.
I have to believe him for some fucking reason.
Okay.
Fuck that.
So, Adi?
But induction is the only thing you can't not use induction. There's no other way to function in the world. So that's the only assumption I'm willing to make based on conviction, because I literally can't help it. And if that's the only one I'm willing to make on conviction alone, then I'm okay with that.
And if in as much as we can grant it to each other, right? We all have to start somewhere, and I think that's where the tag argument fails. Is we're all understanding that we're using laws of logic, and then the tag argument goes, well, I can, but you can't. And
I get this far, but I'm going to tell you how far I actually got.
Yeah, it's very silly, but this is something.
Adi, preferred definition?
4.
Faith. So pay attention.
Oh,
pay
I
attention.
am willing to accept anything that anybody tells me is the one that they're using, but my favorite one to have somebody tell me is the faith is the belief in that which can't be seen, or however the Bible puts it, or however
Yeah.
any
Faith
particular.
is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I'm also the person who memorized half the Bible, so that's why Peter brings me in so he can rant at the Christians while he goes and off and does other things.
Yeah, I want to bring that up earlier. You guys are talking about
whenever I'm stuck and I got a visitor. Okay. So
Here's your puppy.
Oh,
Oh, the puppies.
Hi, baby girl.
I miss. Oh,
she woke up. I was laughing. I had myself muted. I was laughing a while back, and then she wakes up and comes and hops over to see what the hell's going on.
Yeah, Eddie's about to turn into a fucking starved waif if I don't throw a morsel down his throat here in the next 20 minutes.
So yeah, what I was saying is when I talk to a Christian and I know a verse in the Bible, but I don't know exactly where it is, I just point to Lilith, and Lilith will just be snap. That's there.
I can never remember the references. I just memorized half of the text. I figured that was good enough.
Yeah,
it's never good enough. Which version did you read?
Yeah, that's why I say that's the version
Which version didn't I read?
That's
I mean, my parents had. Sorry, go ahead.
I said that's the version of the definition of faith that I most want to hear, because it's the most vapid. There's nothing to it. It's
not a definition. It's a
I want this so
Hallmark card saying.
I have dreamt of how important it is to me to own a Lamborghini, and in my head there is a Lamborghini in my garage, and that Lamborghini is a fact. Fuck you.
So now we know why Artie has such a big head. So
fucking Lamborghini I got out in the sled.
I'll be the last one. I'm like Arn Ra. I'm an epistovist, so I'll stick to the Bible version of faith, which is Hebrews 5:11. Lilith, help.
Is that the one I would just quoted?
Yeah. So in a conversation, I will go with the definition of the person that I'm talking to at that particular time. But yeah, I don't think at least in the Abrahamic religions, you can't get away from that particular definition because it's there, clear as day.
It doesn't matter, because literally by definition, when people use it in the way that they use it, faith is make-believe. Because you'll notice the people who advocate for faith will say, you're choosing not to believe. And when you say, I don't choose my beliefs, they say, yes, you do. And what I think a lot of people who've always been intellectually honest don't understand is you can choose your beliefs. You just can't choose your beliefs honestly. It's called make-believe. And it's called faith because it's not facts.
I'm with you on this, but I have heard from people who I think were being honest when they disagreed with me.
Yeah, I gotta disagree pedantically as well.
Ah, fuck you, Eric.
I'm your pig, man. It's pedantic, and the pedantic thing is it choosing faith if you're lying to yourself? Or is it choosing belief if you're lying to yourself? I don't think that it would...
That's the only way to choose belief.
You can't choose
and
truth.
You can... No, you can't choose truth, but you can choose belief and you can manipulate yourself. Eric, you and I, come on. We were taught so many techniques to stop thought, to put ourselves in the right direction, to take it to Jesus, to take every thought captive to Christ. We were taught that. This is literally a way to lie to yourself, but at the same time convince yourself that you're not lying to yourself. It's doublethink.
It is. I don't know. I again, the choosing of the belief, because for me, belief is that which you accept to be true. And so choosing that, I think, is just so fundamentally tied to your epistemic toolbox that I don't think you can choose, and I think it's pedantic because you followed that up with, but it's not honest. And so I think yeah.
No, and that's I'm saying it's not honest to deliberately trick yourself into believing something. But at the same time, many of us were told that that was the only way to think.
And
so much like with racism and bigotry.
Don't think for a minute that all of us don't appreciate pedantic twattery, because we do.
We are professional navel gazers.
Yeah, no, all of us. And on top of that, I'm a grammar Baptist, so I got that going for me.
Yeah.
That's the new term, is it? Grammar Baptist instead
It's the
of
one I'm going with because I'm German, so the other one makes me really fucking uncomfortable.
Honestly, these days it's probably more accurate.
Hey.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's well, I only talk like this when I'm online. When I'm what are you, Baptist in a liquor store? Shut up.
You could be a grammar Protestant. Martin Luther lived in Germany.
Well, to be fair, when Audie's on Twitter and he's talking to me, he invents all kinds of new words, and there's no grammar to it whatsoever. So it's not entirely true.
Like that's not grammar.
So I do got to tell you, I was lucky enough to go to Wittenberg and go to the door where Martin Luther posted the 95 Theses, and it was pretty awesome. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, whether or not you agree with different,
literally awesome. I can appreciate that.
It was. They completely replaced the door, and engraved in the door are the 95 Theses, and it's totally a tourist attraction. But still, though, it was pretty neat because you're kind of standing there by history. So,
all right, have you seen Eddie Izzard perform "Dress to Kill"?
Yes. So
when you were there, did you have in the back of your head, "Ein Minuten bitte"?
No, I didn't. Because when I went to Wittenberg, I was a teenager, so it was before.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would have been before then. Yeah.
And
before you were allowed
to be fair,
oh
to be fair, here in Europe, churches are getting more and more to be tourist attractions only, because at least in my country, they're up for sale pretty much all the time. If you want to buy a church, there's a church for sale because no one's going there anymore.
We have to call Shannon Q. She can finally have the Church of Secular Humanism. An actual church.
Well, a friend of mine lives in a church. He bought a church, and I nearly bought one, and then the Seventh-day Adventists beat me to it, and so now they've got it.
See, if I lived in a church, I would never wear clothes. Every day I would get my coffee and just sit my bare ass on the pews and just bask.
I'd sit my bare ass on the altar. I am having sex on the altar every day.
Yeah, no, you are definitely boning on the altar.
Yeah, this church is all stained glass windows, right? There's no just.
Yeah, no one can look inside because that's the only provision. If you buy a church, you cannot change the windows, so you can't look in or out. So you can pretty much do whatever you want, which is probably the reason that there are clubs
exactly like a child blowing God because they're being blessed and it's very awkward.
Well, I know of at least one S&M club that is in a former Catholic church, and they've left everything as it was and then turned it into an S&M club. So
Imagine putting like a harness on one of the Mary statues.
I mean,
I want to go. I want to go to this S&M club.
See,
Jesus, when your parents were having sex, was Mary wearing a belt?
Yeah. I mean, I'm now reliving the fact that Robert has a tiny hard drive and what came of that, and we will not go into that because Robert's not here.
Wow.
But make that a hashtag, people. Please make that a hashtag.
Hashtag
Robert has a
hard-
tiny hard drive. He'll love that.
Robert's tiny
I need to get to my next question because I'm far behind already. We have one that's from a former guest on our show, Gary. He asked, "Are you going to be better? No, is it better? No, I can't read.
time.
Are you going to be better for a more fruitful conversation to have a conversation with a moderate Christian such as he is? He's really moderate, or clowns like G-Man?"
Totally depends. Totally depends.
See, I
if
like
you
that answer.
Yeah, well, if you want to have a conversation that's one-on-one and you want to have a fruitful conversation, then definitely the more moderate is probably going to yield faster results. But if you have a platform and you're using that platform, then having some of the wackier ones, and don't get me wrong, I've seen it in the comments so many times, it drives me nuts because people say, oh, well, that person's obviously mentally ill, how dare you? And the thing is yes, some people are. And I mean, some of us are too. But number one, writing somebody off for that is bullshit. And number two, I've had so many elders in my church espouse some of the wackiest bullshit I have ever heard, that there are times that people have called in that immediate in the live chat, oh, this is a Poe, oh, this is ridiculous, oh, this person's crazy. It's like, no. I am actually able to relate and go,
even if they were Focus on the Family said the same thing last week, so
yeah, and
yeah,
and we can address it. And if you're doing this with a crowd, if you're doing this on a platform, that means that you are giving people the opportunity to interact with these ideas in a way that is not personally making them feel attacked or anything like that, but giving them an environment to kind of mull that stuff over. And it's important. So both. But if you do it backwards, you're not going to have a good time. If you are talking to somebody one-on-one, if you're talking to your aunt or uncle on the phone and you're saying shame on you and all that, and you're just piling on all of this stuff, you're not scoring points with anybody. You're just making sure that they don't want to talk to you again. And the other way is if you've got that platform and you're inadvertently giving your platform to bigots to espouse their bigotry, then you have a responsibility there to hold them to account. So so long as you're tailoring your message and the attitude and the way that you're bringing it to them so that you can get the desired result, I think that's going to be the best.
Well, and with that, you answered my next question that I had from His Holiness. Do you think that sometimes speaking to really weird people just gives publicity to stupidity that is underdeserved, or e.g. flat Earth people? So,
it depends. Again, if you're talking about someone who's a flat earther, then I think it's worth the conversation, because there are enough flat earthers that challenging that idea could be beneficial. If you're talking about somebody who has kind of worked their way into their own thing, we were talking about Richard Madden earlier. He kind of has his own. I've never met another person like him. He's kind of on his own, thing. Then I think that may be less useful, because I don't really see very many people espousing that viewpoint, and so challenging that may not be as cathartic or useful to the audience. So,
and I'd like to chime in on that, because I've spoken to Richard a couple of times, both on and offline. A good friend of ours, Duke Bonanza, had an offline talk with him, which I thought was one of the best that I've heard. He actually found out a little bit more about what Richard actually believes, and that should have gone out live, and there was only the three of us in the hangout. But what I like about talking to Richard is to pick someone's brain, to figure out how they think and why they actually think it. And in that aspect, Richard is unique, because I haven't come across anyone like Richard either.
Well, and he's just genuinely a sweet guy.
He is. He is.
But yeah, it's you're kind of weighing your platform and making sure that you're doing the most good. And while it's great for private conversation, I want to utilize the platform I have to make sure that what I'm doing is the most good that I can, elevating the discourse. And
well, and you also have to take into account that you have viewers, and that's who you make your content for. And you have
True.
to take into account what they think. So I've offered G-Man to come on our channel,
Please.
and if he does, what I want it to be is not a dumpster fire. I want to have a serious conversation with him, and I did get.
The man who said that women should marry their rapists.
Hold on. I did get him to be serious when I was on his channel, and I was literally trolling him. I had a backdrop that, like I was in hell, and I had G-Man's hell across my head, and so I was trolling. And then I got to talk to him, and I told him, if you're up for a serious conversation, hop over, check out our channel. But if you want to come on, there's no trolling. I won't allow that from you. I want a serious conversation. So we'll see what happens. I have no clue what. We'll see what happens. So, but just in case, what would happen if G-Man would approach you, Eric? Would you have him on?
yeah,
It's good radio.
I mean, so as long as there's something to be gained from it, then yes. If it became a dumpster fire that there wasn't value in, then I would end it. But
I agree.
yeah, it's definitely interesting, the mindset that you take when you're in front of the camera and you get the lights in your eyes, and you get your voice fed back to you and all of that. It's so outside of your own experience that it is a whole lot easier to realize, okay, no, this isn't for me. This is for the people who are watching.
Mhm.
What do I hope to give them? What do I hope to help, exemplify? And then it goes from there. So yeah, I'll take a G-Man. I'll also take a Darth Dawkins. He's called him.
He won't talk to me anymore. I refuse to go on his Discord server where he has control of the mute button, and I told him that's not going to happen. If you and I have a conversation, it's going to be live, and I will be in control of the mute button, and I won't touch the mute button, because that's not how this works. You either have a conversation, or you just silence people all the time because you just like to talk, and that's not how I work.
I'm not going to pretend to know why, but Darth has never blocked me on Twitter, and for those in the audience that have any idea who the hell I am, that's a relatively shocking thing to learn. I get frustrated when somebody says something really stupid. I can't help myself but say something equally vapid in return, and often that comes off as insulting. And I suffer the consequences of that.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah, often it is.
I was being generous.
Peter, I gotta applaud you, man. Not saying that you would, because the reason I'm okay with having that person on my show is because I do have control of the mute button, and I don't like being railroaded. If we're going to talk about a single topic, we're going to talk about that topic until we're done talking about that topic.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I managed to do that without the mute button when I had Sights and Bruggenkate on, because but let's face it, Darth Dawkins is just Psy on steroids.
You know,
And
I haven't.
and I think I had a really meaningful conversation with Sergeant Bruggencate, and people have complimented me on that, and I'm not sure if that was entirely deserved, but we did have a different conversation that I've seen on other channels. So, and maybe it's because we're both Dutch. That would
That
be,
sounds stupid.
yeah, that's yeah. I think I would have expected Artie to chime in on
That
that.
sounds like something a Dutchman would say.
Yeah.
Fuzzy little.
Well, we started off in Dutch, and then when we went on air, we switched to English. But to me, some people are just a challenge to see if you can get an actual conversation out of them. And so, does that happen to you, Eric? Do you have people that you had on the show where you thought, I'm going to do whatever the hell I can to rein this guy or woman back in and have a conversation instead of a shouting match?
Yeah, absolutely. And that person in particular is one of them. Anytime somebody wants to go on a gish gallop or something like that, I do my best to recognize, is this what they called in for? If this isn't what they called in for, then we need to round back, because the last thing we want is to do 12 assertions and then only be able to respond to one or two of them before they jump in and throw out 12 more assertions. And it just doesn't work that way. Those are just people who want to hear themselves talk. But there is use to that. Again, if you have the platform, exposing that behavior is amazing.
I was just thinking to myself that how funny it would be to mock that by having one of those. I'm old. One of those tape recorders that we used to have in class, where you would, you could just pour audio, but you get to immediately flash it back at someone. If you just recorded what they had just said, where they went through this litany of, seriously, you just said 10 things. You let me respond to one. No, I didn't. Well, yeah, here, Rip. And then you just play this poor audio of them saying 9 other things.
Artemis, I would love to see you do like a John Madden, the tail of the take. You see what we've got here, and you get the board and you start writing on it, and what we're gonna do is he's gonna go around this end and just completely ignore what you talked about so that he can get onto his and right here. That would be amazing.
That would be the best. I want to see that. I want to see that with the whiteboard and the, here and over here, and the right out of left field, and
it's not entirely impossible to do that on OBS. I think there might be a way to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking that's inspiration enough that we might want to do that.
Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah,
So, I have one more question from the chat, and then I've got one for myself.
Sure.
This is from I think our very first fan and moderator, Beach Price. She says it's totally off topic, but would Eric please rampage for a bit about the rise of the anti-vax during a pandemic?
Oh, do we want to make me depressed? Did you say anti?
You have alcohol.
No, I'm out of gin. Lilith, I'm out of gin.
Oh, see that?
Have you not seen those smoke signals? It's been.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Please.
You need to get a hold of Robert. He's in your neighborhood, and he always has good gin.
Robert always has good gin. I wish I could help you, Eric, but the only thing I have is a tiny bottle of whiskey.
So, you poor man, you.
Yeah. So.
Eric, if you
Look at this.
It's so weird that you have Red Label.
If we're going to talk about,
I know.
I
have
think
limited options.
Is everything red?
if we want to talk about anti-facts, I think where I would go with it is the human element of it. I've talked to family members who are very much brought into the conservative, Fox News talking points, and it's been scary. It's been scary. I talked to somebody who said that, industry needs to restart and some people are just going to have to die. And I told him that's ghoulish.
Can't be that cold.
That is, well, but here's the thing. I know him. He's a sweetheart. And so when you have these talking points that are given out, you find that there are a lot of really good people who are parroting things that they wouldn't necessarily come up with on their own. And there are different ways that we can take it. If somebody is standing up front of a Capitol building because they want to get a haircut, odds are that they got brought into some of these things, and it's going to take all approaches, but of all of them, please don't forget that there's an empathetic approach as well, that there's a human in there, and maybe that human hasn't thought this all the way through, or maybe there's a lot of deeper fear that is informing that. There are some people who think that the opposite end of some people are going to have to die is everyone else is going to die. And if you don't address the latter, then how are you going to change their mind on the former? And so, appealing to that and talking to that in an open way. I had a family member who wanted to fly me out to go and see them. And I was like, no
way am I getting on a plane.
No way am I getting on a plane. And they're like, well, what's the big deal? And I said, well, you're immune compromised. And they said, well, look at the numbers. And I said, I don't care how low the numbers are. I'm not going to play Russian roulette with my family.
Look at how people die.
Yeah.
And it's a horrific death. It's not just suffocating. It's prolonged lack of oxygen to the point where the people who are hospitalized and recover have a lot of missing digits or missing limbs, because it's hypoxia. It's a lack of oxygen to your body. It's not just suffocating. In fact, best case, here's the most horrifying thing that can be. If you've ever had double pneumonia, or even if you've had single pneumonia, you can appreciate it. But if you've ever had double pneumonia, the best treatment available right now is to put these people on their stomachs for 18 hours a day and to have them upright for the other 6 as best they can.
Yeah.
So sleep on your diaphragm and your fluid-filled lungs, because otherwise the only other time you're going to be out of that bed is going to be upright, because we need to get the fluid out of you.
Yeah.
That's the best treatment. Your best option is to escape after being treated like that without having lost any fingers or toes or feet or hands. Being hospitalized with this, with a pre-existing condition, is a death sentence. Without one, you might leave with fewer fingers, or it's horrifying. The way you die is horrific.
And I mean, ultimately, the question was if we could go on a bit of a rant about these counter facts. Ultimately,
well, and the counterfacts against vaccines too, because that's been a huge part of this. And I think that might have been the original question about the anti-vax, although, because they're all this nonsense about the mark of the beast and 5G and Microsoft is going to, Bill Gates is going to track everything you do, as if Bill Gates gives a flying fuck what you do. Did you buy something Windows related? He's making money. He doesn't care.
Yeah. I mean, there are these assumptions of conspiracy that are ridiculous. You know, we're working with George Soros. I sent George Soros an email, and he never responded. Nope, never did. Never did. We're not on the payroll. And the 5G in particular, I actually saw somebody who changed their Wi-Fi router name to 5G. There was a local moms group that was trying to track them down.
Oh, mine is. I've got a neighbor who has theirs as a FBI van out front.
So
wait. I have that.
Yeah,
I have two Wi-Fi outlets, and I have two separate vans as my Wi-Fi outlets.
Yeah, kudos to all of you that are doing that. That's just fucking funny, all of it. It's always
well. So when I used to live in town, I had neighbors come up and ask me and said, "Have you seen that? There's an FBI van here, because when I look at my Wi-Fi,
the FBI.
There's an FBI van here." And so, no idea.
Because they would totally do that.
Eric,
the FBI is so smart.
Yeah,
Peter lives so far south in that country that in order to get to a hospital from his house, he has to go to Germany to go back to the zone country.
It's not south. It's not south. You're American. It is east.
Except you have to go south to go to Germany. You fucking nut.
No. Well, just a few yards. But there is no road to my house in Holland. That's correct. You need to go through Germany. You need to cross the border and then drive back to my house, which is technically still on the Dutch part, whereas the backyard is German. So I'm kind of international.
I'm going home. Where's my passport?
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up groceries. Where's my passport?
As a real Dutchman, I can actually leave my house, stay in the country, but only if I use a bicycle or a moped or anything like that, because
he's allowed to fly.
Hold on,
he's allowed to fly.
As a real Dutchman, Peter, are you a true Dutchman?
Yeah,
I'm a true Dutchman.
Are you?
And I'm one with a very fitting name. My name is De Tucker, which is related to the area where I live. I live in the area called Twente. People who live here are called Tuckers, and Tuckers translates into English as a hayseed. So I'm pretty much what you guys would call a redneck. So
you're De Kjepper? Was that it?
Sorry?
Tucker.
De Tucker.
Tucker. It's 2Ks instead of it's just the 2K.
Sorry, it's
you're
a shitty liqueur. It's a shitty liqueur that
it's TU Klu Klux ER.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm so weird. I'm so weird. I can't even join the clan. I mean, that's
Hold
probably
on, give me the abort button. Wait, what?
Run away!
Oh no!
Oh God, I broke myself. I'm sorry.
This is what's gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah. So this is when you got Artie in the room, so it never gets dull. Literally never. So we have passed our hour and a half mark, where we usually close off the show, which brings me to my last question. When we do a show, we only have one guest, so we have an hour and a half with one particular theist. When I watched AXP and later Talk Heathen, it's at times it seems to me really difficult to hang up because you are out of time and you got more callers. Is there? Do you have the same feeling? Are there moments where you think, I wish I could talk to this person longer because now the conversation is getting interesting and I got a full set of calls waiting? Does that ever happen? And how do you solve it?
Why you started your own channel?
Every week, yes, and following up with them after the fact has been incredibly difficult. There are so many times when people say, "Oh, I want to get in touch with this person who called into the show. Do you have their number?" Nope. And especially now that we're quarantined, we have call screeners who are on different programs on different parts of the planet, and they're the ones screening the calls and then putting them into a queue, and that queue is getting QA'd by an audio engineer in a completely different place, and that's getting brought in by so I haven't been able to get in touch with very many of them, but that was the original inspiration behind my private channel. Yeah.
See, that was literally why I started this channel, and to it's pretty much a copy of what you guys do, but I do like to have just one particular guest and try and see where I can get with them. The advantage that I have is that I also get to do an intake with the person, because I need to know if they can join on StreamYard, if they got good audio, if they want to be on the camera, and I can explain the format of the show a little. And should I bump into someone who's absolutely maybe not worth the time, then I will call it off. But to be fair, that hasn't happened yet. But I really like having the time to talk to people, and sometimes we do get over the hour and a half mark if it's interesting enough.
Totally understood, man. I'm right there with you.
Howard Stern runs long, man. It's a thing. It happens.
Yeah, and it's because we're having a good time, and I've been doing this for about 3 years, almost going on 3 years, and it is what I look forward to every week. It sets my feeling for the week moving forward. It's my baby, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. That said, I'm not going to be on this weekend, but that's okay. V has not been on in like 3 weeks, and so they're going to be on with Anthony Magna Bosco.
Oh, cool.
And I'll be tuning in, but yeah, it's going to be
Sounds interesting.
Yeah,
on talking.
Anthony is a great guy. He's been on our channel as well, and I'm hoping to have him back soon to do kind of a workshop. Now everyone is cooped up inside. Doing a workshop on street epistemology, I think, wouldn't go a waste. So, and I know that he might be up for it. So I'm hoping that we can get him back on.
Awesome.
But
awesome.
Okay, so we need to wrap it up, because otherwise we're going to lose views. If the longer a show goes, the less views we'll get. So
yeah, drag this out a little longer, why don't you?
No.
Sure. Was that a question in the comment for me to take off my top? That.
Hey, Eric, you might.
We're going to move into the Patreon after show content. If you want to look at the show, thank you so much for having me.
I think I've seen Christy. I think I've seen Christy Santiago in the side chat, possibly. So who knows?
And if that request was related to me, I've already taken off my shirt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm working on it. I'm not going
to say that it wouldn't have been better if I took my shirt in the manner that Eric is taking off is, because.
Well, we'll get there. We'll. Oh, anyway.
That's
so. Any last words for the viewers of our channel, other than they need to go and watch Talk Heathen?
Absolutely. There are a couple. Number one, it's a really tough time right now, and we're really, really grateful that those of you who are doing essential work, we're so grateful that you're there and you're putting yourselves on the line, and you're doing your job. We're going to do our job. Thank you. Number 2, we covered a couple of things in this conversation, and one of those things is how indoctrination has hurt people. And I saw it actually earlier. Best name ever said it, and it's a way that I am going to fully endorse, and that is wherever you came from, however long it took you to get here, and if you're still in the process, you are not broken, and that is important. You are not broken, and this path that you're going on it may take as long as it needs to, but we're here. And you don't need to be on the other end to be a part of this community, because we're building it together. And it doesn't matter where on the other side of the fucking planet we are. We're building it together, and we're glad that you made it. Thank you for having me on, you guys.
And I might add to that if you do feel alone, reach out, because a lot of people in the community will be more than happy to hear you out, maybe help you out with particular things, try and get some help you might need, and offer you a community where you can make friends, and where you can at least be appreciated for who you are and not for who you're supposed to be.
Just quickly, in the same vein, I'm a 50-year-old really lucky motherfucker, and one thing I've learned from, I started talking about it earlier, where we get to talk to people who are like-minded from all over the world in literal real time, like they're in the same room with us. We're all a little fucking broken. And while I feel like most of you during this pandemic are just mocking me for my lifestyle by doing this whole self-isolation thing, I take care of yourselves. If you miss being around or having somebody to converse with, or if you need physical contact, I'm willing to loan you a dog that I'm willing to wipe down with some alcohol. If you just need a hug, that can be arranged. Don't be afraid to ask. You never get what you don't ask for. And don't be afraid to ask for it just because it's something that will make you feel better emotionally, because we're all a little fucked up.
And you also don't need to be in front of a camera.
No.
Sorry, I want to build on you too, man. Recovering from religion, if you have the time, even if it's an hour or two a month, please consider going to Recovering from Religion and sign up to be part of their hotline project. They need people now more than ever. They'll train you. They'll give you the tools. We need people there, because when somebody calls, that might be the only time they make that call. And if we don't answer, we could have missed them. And I can't tell you how many we've already missed, but we're trying. If you want to be part of that, even if it's just, an hour every other month or whatever you can, they're waiting to hear from you. Check out Recovering from Religion.
Absolutely. I'll second that.
Great ending. So I want to thank everyone in the side chat. I want to thank the people for the questions. And I've seen a lot of names coming past of familiar people. See,
seriously, look at that list.
And that's why we don't have 100,000 subscribers, because we've got Artie to insult the people who come here.
They come here so Artie will insult them. Apparently,
Neil,
that's their go-to.
For Christ's sake, who are these people?
Silent. Silent. I'm going to close it off. Eric, stick around a little. We do have an outro to play. Sure. Thanks everyone for joining us, and catch you on the next episode. Who knows when that will be? We'll see. We're working on it. Bye everyone.